Discover how a poor girl's handmade jewelry revealed the hidden soul of a powerful millionaire. Lily sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by a chaotic mixture of mismatched beads, strings, and remnants of broken jewelry. The late afternoon sun poured through the window, illuminating her hands as they worked quickly, instinctually, crafting yet another piece of unique jewelry. Amidst the chatter of her classmates about college applications and dream schools, Lily felt the weight of it all. Financial insecurity was not just a looming specter, it was her daily reality. Her family was barely scraping by, and every moment spent on her art felt like a distraction from her impending responsibilities. More than anything, she feared the judgment from her peers, those who could afford the glossy brochures of elite universities. In her mind, elegance came from the priceless nature of her grandmother's legacy, evidence of a passion that barely paid for groceries. As she molded a piece from a washed-up fragment, a box shoved carelessly beneath her bed caught her eye. When she pried it open, nestled inside were heirloom gemstones, cold and shimmering like the dreams Lily buried beneath layers of doubt. Her heart raced in disbelief. Could these be real? The color was magnificent, their brilliance illuminating a path she dared to envision. But with that vision came a sharp pang of fear. What if she showcased her handwork and it was met with derision? Just as the excitement threatened to overpower her, a familiar voice echoed in her thoughts. "You should focus on something practical. Art won't get you anywhere." It was a constant refrain in her life. The dream for college was expensive, the stakes felt impossibly high. She swallowed her apprehension, a knot tightening in her stomach. Would embracing this gift, her craft, lead her down a path of rejection? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The local fair was drawing near, a chance for her to finally present her creations and chase the validation she craved. But a storm brewed within her. There was Jack, a boy whose wealth had created an invisible barrier that kept him from her world. The mockery of insecurity had already begun. They called her cheap, a beggar, unworthy. Each cutting word felt like shards piercing through the fragile armor she wore. Every day she fought against that narrative, but with the fair looming, doubt flooded her mind. What if she failed? What if her gemstones, her grandmother's legacy, combined with her hands weren't enough to transcend the chatter of dismissal? The very thought brought a swell of desperation. She couldn't simply refuse the invitation to showcase her pieces. It was her chance to break free from the label of poor girl that had haunted her for years. In the fragile light of an uncertain future, her breath quickened. Determination and anguish wrestled within her. Yet a bittersweet irony danced in her heart. As she prepared to step into the spotlight, Jack spent each day entangled in a life that glittered yet stifled, his own issues waiting in the shadows. For every moment of personal growth she sought, he battled against a tidal wave of expectations and impersonal association, fearing that he wouldn't truly connect with anyone. Could they understand each other, or would the echoes of judgment keep them apart? On the eve of their fates intertwining, the question loomed heavy. Would Lily break the chains of what her life had always been? And would Jack find the courage to redefine his purpose? With the air charged with unspoken uncertainties, the path ahead grew increasingly daunting, leaving both standing unknowingly at the edge of a defining moment. As the dawn broke, a sliver of light infused Lily's cluttered bedroom, highlighting her determination as she gathered her creations around her. The heirloom gemstones from the box glimmered, whispering promises of possibilities that flickered like an open flame against the canvases of doubt placed before her. But the thrill of envisioning her art being admired was choked by an inexorable fear of failure. She straightened herself, viewing the array of pieces. Necklaces adorned with pearls and tangled chains, radiating character, but mirroring her own conflicted soul. A voice from her past resurfaced, echoing criticisms ingrained from childhood. She dismissed it, barely. Art won't get you anywhere, rolled through her mind like a broken record. But this time, she challenged it. Could embracing her craft open doors that had long been closed? Steeling herself, Lily pulled out her sketchbook and began to draft designs that reflected not just beauty, but depth and unique narratives. The intertwining of her legacy and her aspirations. Each stroke of her pencil reverberated her fervor, a clarion call against the whispers of unworthiness. But could sketches turn to reality? With the fair just days away, every ounce of her courage felt measured against an invisible ruler of judgment. She planned meticulously, envisioning the setup, how to display the jewelry to catch the eyes of potential buyers, perhaps even those who picked out flaming jewels freely. Yet, beneath the surface of her ambition lay a storm, one that gripped at her insides. The notion of ridicule, alongside the possibility of appreciation, haunted her dreams. With a decision forming, she ventured into the local library, seeking inspiration. Surrounded by the silence of old pages and stories untold, she became aware of the power literature held in shaping her path. As she thumbed through books on craftsmanship, business ownership, and artists who conquered fear, they wove intricate tapestries of stories like her own, transformations born out of self-belief against all odds. Motivated by the accounts of others who had faced similar battles, Lily contemplated her next steps. What if she shared her story alongside her creations? The honesty of her journey might resonate with those who never considered the soul behind the craftsmanship. Perhaps by peeling back her vulnerability, the audience wouldn't see just jewelry, but would feel the pains and triumphs woven into each piece. That thought propelled her back home, filling her with a renewed vigor. Each bead she strung was met with a decision. Every loop and twist held the weight of her narrative. The sacrifices her family made, the longing for more, the relentless chase for self-defined authenticity. As she meticulously prepared her display, her resolve solidified. One fear remained. Would Jack wander into her world well-equipped as he was with privilege? She craved a connection, to draw him into her art, to stand beside him on this unfamiliar ground. Yet the fear of vulnerability held her back. But the clock ticked closer to the unveiling, and a glimpse of resolve crossed her visage. If my art doesn't speak for me, then I must speak for it, she thought, her heart racing with the electric promise of potential. Amid her preparations, the clamor of uncertainty began to drown out the earlier whispers of insecurity. Could she truly rise above the labels that haunted her? With every piece she polished, a question bubbled up. Could her crafted narratives connect with Jack amidst the chaos of their contrasting worlds? The fair was imminent, a shared moment where their paths would finally converge. The question of vulnerability versus judgment looming large like an impending storm. Would they both find courage under the spotlight or flee into their separate shadows? As the pressure mounted with each passing hour, Lily found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The anticipation of the fair juxtaposed against a nagging doubt that threatened to unravel her carefully woven plans. Days became a blur as she balanced creating her pieces with rehearsing the story she intended to share. The thrill of unveiling her art felt tantalizingly close, yet painfully distant. Her workspace vibrated with creative chaos, remnants of scattered beads and sketches whispering tales of hardship and dreams. In moments of isolation, she seized upon the power of words, skimming through her written narratives to distill her thoughts into succinct messages. "This is who I am. This is what I create," she practiced, her voice echoing in the silence as if to drown out the lingering specters of doubt. Working late into the night, the soft golden hues of string lights igniting her corner of the world. Every twist and turn of a necklace felt like building a bridge, not just to connect her art to potential buyers, but to connect her past struggles to her present ambitions. Yet the doubt remained, a persistent shadow, lurking on the fringes of her consciousness. Would her story resonate? Would people understand the journey, the sacrifices that accompanied each bead she carefully selected? Jack's face floated into her thoughts, his privileged existence contrasting sharply with her own. She fought against comparisons, reminding herself that authenticity could shine brighter than wealth. Yet a flicker of insecurity threatened to extinguish her growing fire. Determined to counter these fears, she scheduled a late-night phone call with Mia, her friend who always reminded her of her strength. As the call began, Lily hesitated, the weight of her vulnerability pressing down. "Lily, what's on your mind?" Mia prodded gently, sensing the pause. I'm scared," Lily confessed, her voice tinged with raw emotion. "What if no one believes in my story? What if they don't see the value in my art?" Mia's laughter was warm and reassuring. "Lily, art isn't just about the product. It's about the emotion behind it. Maybe that's the real story, your story. Don't forget that." With those words reverberating through her, she hung up feeling slightly more anchored, ready to assert her truth despite the encroaching uncertainty. The night before the fair, she arranged every piece meticulously on a black velvet cloth, the gemstones glowing against the darkness. Each piece gleamed with possibilities. It was as if they were reflecting her own internal struggle and resilience. She leaned in, examining the intricate settings she had crafted with her hands, marveling at her own skill. The fear of judgment gave way to a small flicker of pride, a realization that emerged unbidden. Perhaps she was capable of more than she ever dared to admit. The next morning brought the vibrancy of the day with it, colors dancing in the sunlight and the hum of nervous energy surging through her. As she made her way to the venue, a knot tightened in her stomach. She could no longer ignore the implications of facing Jack amid a sea of strangers and potential critics. Arriving at the entrance, the grandeur of the place swallowed her whole, the sounds of joyous chatter enveloping her. With her heart hammering in her chest, she spotted Jack across the room, surrounded by admirers eager to engage with his privilege. But instead of retreating, she felt an urge to approach him and redefine their dynamic. Lily steadied herself. The time had come to confront her fears head-on, not just for her art's sake, but also for her identity. Could she traverse the gulf between their worlds? As she took her first step, she could almost hear her heart whispering, "This is your moment. Own it." Unbeknownst to her, Jack turned at that moment, his eyes finding hers, curiosity igniting in his gaze. Would they connect amidst the chaos? Would this be the point where their narratives crisscross, leading them both to unexpected revelations? As Lily approached Jack, the chatter around her faded to a dull hum, her focus sharpening with every step. The energy of the crowd seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat, each beat echoing her resolve. Grappled with the remnants of her previous insecurities, the flickers of doubt fighting against her emerging confidence. This meeting was more than a confrontation. It was a chance for visibility, for self-assertion. When they finally stood face to face, the air thickened with unspoken words. Jack's expression was a mixture of surprise and intrigue, as if he hadn't expected her boldness. He glanced over the array of pieces displayed behind her, their brilliance momentarily overshadowed by the intensity of their shared history. "Lily," he began, a hint of uncertainty in his voice, "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She took a moment, grounding herself. "But this is my work. This is who I am." Jack's eyes flickered back to the jewelry, his interest piqued. "I always thought of you as different. So much ambition in someone who—" He caught himself. "I mean, it's impressive." Lily felt a weight lift at his acknowledgement, but also a slight sting at his choice of words. The past couldn't be erased or whitewashed. It was part of the fabric that made up her art and her identity. "I didn't let my circumstances define me, Jack. Every piece tells a story, my story." There was a brief pause. Jack shifted, the hint of defensiveness in his posture easing somewhat. "I can relate to that in my own way," he replied, his voice quieter, more reflective. "Sometimes it feels like people see just the surface." Those words hung between them, laden with a shared understanding that transcended their different backgrounds. It was a moment of connection, one where they both recognized the struggle inherent in being defined by others' perceptions. As Jack examined her work, Lily felt a flicker of renewed determination. This wasn't just about him or her past. This was about empowerment through creativity. "I want people to see the beauty in resilience, in vulnerability. Each piece is a chapter of my life, and I want their stories to resonate with others." "Maybe you can teach me how to make my own chapters more meaningful," he suggested, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "I want to stop living just for appearances. What if there's more beneath the surface?" His admission sent a ripple of hope through her. For the first time, Jack wasn't just a symbol of privilege, but a complex individual grappling with his own narrative. Here they were, two souls navigating the labyrinth of their pasts, perhaps destined to redefine their futures together. "Let's help each other," she proposed, emboldened. "You've seen the world through one lens, and I've seen it through another. Maybe that can create something new." A spark of excitement ignited in Jack's gaze. Yet doubt crept alongside that excitement, whispering a familiar refrain. Was she ready to collaborate with someone like him? Would she let go of her fears enough to trust him with her story? Before she could answer herself, a loud voice broke through the moment, calling for attendees to gather for an important announcement. The atmosphere shifted as attendees shuffled toward the main stage, the sense of anticipation mounting. "Looks like we might be interrupted," Jack said, glancing back at the crowd. There was a crackle of tension in the air as Lily looked toward the stage, her mind racing. This was not over. Not yet. They had opened a door, and she could sense the potential of what lay beyond. But as she turned back to Jack, the warmth of emerging potential settled uneasily in her gut. "Let's find each other after this," Jack urged, intent clear in his eyes. "Absolutely," Lily responded, her heart racing at the opportunities this collaboration could lead to. But as she walked away to join the gathering crowd, a thought tightened within her. Was their connection truly genuine or simply fleeting? The answer remained elusive, shrouded in the hesitation of unfolding circumstances. But the journey ahead felt inevitable. What revelations awaited them in this chaotic environment? And would navigating their intertwined narratives lead to profound transformations? Or would the shadows of their pasts loom larger than the promises of the future? Lily joined the throng of attendees, but her mind remained with Jack. The noise of the crowd became nearly unbearable, a cacophony of excitement and tension that only amplified her thoughts. She was caught in the current of uncertainty, her heart pounding with the notion of the possibilities they just opened. Was it fleeting urgency or authentic intent that lay beneath their exchange? As the announcement unfolded on stage, Lily's gaze drifted around the room, absorbing the reactions of her peers. Pride and envy danced across faces, the two worlds of ambition and privilege illuminated starkly in the crowded space. She felt a familiar pang of inferiority, a gnawing reminder that her path had been riddled with obstacles that her counterparts likely never faced. But there was something else brewing inside of her too, determination. What if this opportunity with Jack could redefine her narrative? It would require a leap of faith, pushing her past the ingrained doubt that had clung to her like a second skin for too long. When the announcement finally concluded and the audience's focus turned elsewhere, Lily slipped away, her steps leading her to a quiet corner of the venue. She needed to think, to process. As she leaned against a cool wall, she traced the contours of a bracelet on her wrist, one she had crafted herself, from reclaimed materials, a poignant testament to her journey. It struck her then, the realization that each piece she created was not merely jewelry, they were affirmations of resilience. Then the weight of what lay ahead pressed on her. Collaborating with Jack meant exposing herself to vulnerability, an arena where she had long been hesitant to tread. Despite the shared moment of understanding, could she trust someone who lived in such stark contrast to her experiences? In that instant, her phone buzzed. Jack's name appeared on the screen. Her breath hitched. Would he reinforce her fears or encourage her to push through them? Taking a moment to collect her thoughts, she answered. "Hey," she said, attempting to sound casual, though her heart raced. "Lily, where are you? I've been trying to find you." Jack's voice came through, laced with urgency. "I just needed a moment to think," she replied, fighting the vulnerability in her tone. There was a pause on the other end, hinting at Jack's uncertainty. "I get it. Can we meet somewhere? I want to talk more about this collaboration." His enthusiasm was palpable, a stark contrast to her cloud of doubt. Lily's mind raced. The prospect of creating something together was both exhilarating and terrifying. "Sure, where?" "Let's head to the cafe across the street. It'll be quieter there," he suggested. She agreed, her heart fluttering with anticipation and trepidation. As she walked toward the cafe, fresh questions swirled within her. What did he truly think of her art? Did he understand the weight each piece carried? Arriving at the cafe, she took a moment to survey the room, searching for him. Jack was leaning against a wall, his tall frame radiating an aura of confidence despite the uncertain connection they'd formed. A knot of nerves twisted in Lily's stomach. As they settled into a booth, Jack leaned forward, his green eyes intense. "I want us to be real with each other. I've been thinking about how your stories can change the way people view art, and the world for that matter." Those words resonated deeply within her. He saw more than just the surface. He was willing to meet her at the crossroads of their experiences. But a lingering doubt nagged at her. Could their partnership truly flourish, or was she merely an experiment in his quest for deeper meaning? "Are you prepared for that?" she questioned, her voice steady but her heart racing. This isn't just about the art. His attention sharpened, and she could see him considering her words. "I am. I need to dive deeper too. This is new for me, challenging the expectations that have always been placed on me." Emerging within Jack's words was a glimpse of vulnerability she hadn't expected. Could this work? Could they dismantle the barriers surrounding their identities and create something radical together? As they continued to discuss their ideas, a sense of urgency enveloped them, a shared need to confront their pasts, redefine their futures, and challenge what they both believed about the world and themselves. But lurking beneath the potential for collaboration was the nagging worry. As they peeled back these layers, would they discover more than they were prepared to face? The conversation escalated, and with it, tension built between anticipation and fear. The true nature of their partnership was yet to be revealed, and Lily couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of something much deeper. Could they forge a genuine connection that would withstand the harsh realities of their differing backgrounds? Or would the shadows they both held close threaten to suffocate the very promise that illuminated their first encounter? As she leaned closer to Jack, poised on the brink of profound revelations, the air grew thick with uncharted possibilities. Lily's heart raced as she absorbed Jack's words, the gravity of their shared moment hanging in the air between them. It was a moment suspended in time, revealing a potent mixture of vulnerability and ambition. The walls of the cafe seemed to close in around them. The chatter of other patrons faded, leaving only their conversation as the backdrop to her inner turmoil. "Tell me more about what you mean by challenging expectations," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She needed to understand this side of him, to peel back the layers of his carefully cultivated persona. Jack hesitated, and in that silence she saw him weighing his thoughts, fighting against the reflex to maintain his polished exterior. I've always been the one expected to succeed in ways that fit into a certain mold. My family, my education, they expect me to take the traditional path, to connect with the elite, and to leverage that privilege. But it feels hollow, he confessed, vulnerability spilling from him like an open wound. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Here was a revelation she hadn't anticipated. It shifted the ground beneath her. Could it be that beneath his confidence lay the same insecurity she battled daily? Hollow, she echoed to herself. Her own journey had imbued the art she created with meaning, a way to reclaim her narrative. But could his path truly intertwine with hers? What if we both redefined what success looks like? She mused aloud, her thoughts veering towards possibility. What if your privilege could elevate voices, not drown them out? What if we could create work that genuinely reflects both our worlds? Jack's gaze intensified, and she could sense his eagerness to embrace her challenge. That's it. We must create a dialogue through the art, something authentic. He leaned closer, the intensity in his eyes igniting a spark of inspiration within her. But I won't pretend to understand your struggles. That's where we need to start, Lily replied, her voice steadier than she felt. By acknowledging our differences and finding value in them, your perspective can make my art resonate, but I can't be just a tool for your vision. The weight of their conversation felt overwhelming, yet liberating. Each word exchanged was a step toward uncharted territory, one that required trust and raw honesty. But even as they spoke, the specter of hesitation loomed. Would they find the balance between their truths, or would too many shadows obscure their path forward? Lily's thoughts began to whirl with calculations and what-ifs, the responsibilities of the partnership sinking in. This collaboration could shine a light on unheard stories, but it means I need to be brave, to expose my soul, she reflected inwardly. The act of being brave had always been a distant concept for her. Actions tinged with fear were often her default. What if, she proposed, her voice taking on an edge of determination, we did something that made people uncomfortable, art that forces them to question their own realities? Jack's smile widened, alive with enthusiasm. That's the essence of creativity, not just to create beauty, but to provoke thought and foster change. As they explored various ideas, Lily felt the subtle threads of her doubts beginning to untangle. With every suggestion birthed in collaboration, her confidence swelled. Together, they were not just bridging worlds, they were learning from the divides that had once defined them. Yet lurking within this newfound hope was the incessant doubt that shadowed her progress. What if the cracks of their respective stories were too vast to bridge? What would happen when the moment of truth arrived? The foundation of her fears demanded an answer, a reckoning that waited just beyond the horizon. As their conversation deepened and possibilities unfolded, a call of urgency flickered inside her, a reminder that while collaboration had its merits, it also bore risks. She knew the time had come to confront not only their aspirations, but their darker truths as well. Jack, she began, her voice steady but laced with the tremor of realization, what happens when we uncover our hidden depths? Are you prepared to face the consequences of that journey? A moment of silence passed, thick with the weight of both their untold stories. The thrill of potential collided with the gravity of impending revelations, and Lily sensed that the stage was set for discovery, a narrative yet unwritten, begging for authenticity. The air hummed with unspoken fear and exhilaration. The path ahead might be fraught with danger, but growth demanded the audacity to leap into the unknown. Would they be able to unravel their pasts, or would the ghosts surrounding their identities prove too daunting to confront? Lily pushed the unease aside and focused on the creative possibilities unfolding between them. She felt both exhilarated and apprehensive about revealing the raw, unpolished truths that lay beneath the surface of their art. What reality would they uncover together? And more significantly, what would she discover about herself in the process? In the days that followed their conversation, Lily transitioned from doubt to determination. With Jack as her partner, they began frequenting local venues where the vibrant pulse of the community was palpable. The two spent hours discussing art, society, and the unfiltered emotions that shaped their separate worlds. Every encounter with local artists or residents brought new perspectives, igniting fresh ideas that made her feel alive in ways she hadn't experienced before. Yet, for every spark of inspiration that surged through her, a nagging voice in the back of her mind whispered caution. Would she regurgitate the struggles of her upbringing and ignore her journey toward empowerment? The idea of sharing her origins with Jack, of exposing her vulnerabilities, seemed daunting. The opposing narratives of privilege and hardship felt immense. She questioned whether they could blend into a singularly powerful statement. Her thoughts crystallized one afternoon when Jack suggested they attend a community art fair. "Let's engage directly with those who might be affected by our work," he proposed, hope lighting up his eyes. This resonates deeply with Lily. She recognized it as a potential turning point in their project. Yet the prospect also felt like a precipice, teetering on the edge of vulnerability. "Do you think people will embrace our vision?" she asked, uncertainty wrapping around her words like a heavy cloak. Would they listen to their stories, or would they dismiss their collaboration as a mere gimmick? Jack's reassurance felt both grounding and energizing. "Art is subjective, Lily. It will resonate with those who want to understand it. But we have to ensure we approach them authentically." His words lingered in the air, carving out space for the growth of their art and themselves. As they ventured amidst throngs of creative minds, Lily began to feel the infectious energy of the event. Artists spoke passionately of their stories, each piece born from profound personal experiences. Something inside her stirred. What was she so afraid of? Their work couldn't lack authenticity simply because it was vulnerable. Maybe true strength lay in that very exposure. She grabbed Jack's arm, excitement bubbling. "Let's do it! Let's create something real. We'll collect these stories, interact with the community, and let that guide us." As the fair commenced and vibrant colors and sounds enveloped them, Lily shifted from spectator to participant. Watching her surroundings, she soaked in the stories, the laughter, and even the tears. Each individual she spoke to offered lessons she hadn't sought out. In those conversations, she felt her previous fears begin to dissolve. They were not merely participants, but conduits of larger narratives. Amidst the swirl of creativity, Jack approached an artist named Mara, a woman who had built her life around reclaimed materials, transforming them into breathtaking installations that spoke of resilience and rebirth. Their discussion transformed as Jack invited her into theirs, and she obliged, sharing her struggles and triumphs. In that moment, Lily felt something awakening in her. Mara's passion mirrored her own, and Lily realized that she didn't need to hide behind her upbringing. Every facet of her experience, no matter how painful, could become part of the raw, concrete storytelling they aimed to achieve. She could embrace the discomfort of revealing her truth, and it could serve as the very foundation for their collaboration. Her heart raced with this revelation. The stakes were high. She was about to step into a truth that had remained obscured for too long. But could she walk this path without losing herself in the process? As the vibrant voices around them began to fuse into a chorus of empowerment, Jack turned to her, excitement evident in his gaze. "Are you ready to confront what lies beneath?" he asked, a tremor of eagerness in his voice. Lily inhaled deeply, every nerve in her body alight. The moment she had shied away from was suddenly tangible. The journey they were embarking upon demanded tenacity, but equally honesty. This would be a test of their resolve, revealing whether they could withstand the storm of their intertwined narratives. "Yes," she breathed, determination fueling her spirit. "Let's dive deep." Little did she know, this leap into authenticity would unravel not only their shared story, but also reveal profound truths hidden within herself. She sensed that the journey had merely begun, and the real challenges were lurking just around the corner. As she exchanged unscripted laughter with Jack amidst the creative clamor, a shift occurred. They were positioned at the edge of something transformative, but the shadows of doubt still loomed, waiting to be confronted. What would they uncover about their identities as the layers peeled away? The time for reckoning had come. The atmosphere buzzed with creativity and the warmth of emerging connections. Yet, as Lily and Jack navigated through the kaleidoscope of voices and colors, Lily felt the weight of the impending vulnerability that awaited her. Each conversation with artists like Mara had kindled a flame within her, driving her to confront the realities she had long tucked away. It was exhilarating, yet unsettling, a paradox that twisted in her stomach. The following week, immersed in the drying paint of their project, she began to understand the significance of their collaboration. Every sketch they drafted, every idea they structured, demanded a new layer of honesty. But the closer they got to that raw truth, the more she shied away, questioning every brushstroke and line. "Why do you hesitate?" Jack probed during one of their late-night sessions, his voice a soft echo against the backdrop of their work. "You're holding back." "You wouldn't understand," she snapped, the edges of her unresolved emotions surfacing. It was unfair and undeserved, but she felt cornered. "Try me," he said, his gaze steady, challenging her to break through her self-imposed barriers. "I don't expect you to share everything right away, but you need to trust me." Trust. The word hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their shared journey. She recognized that there was a chasm between her upbringing and Jack's world, and now, with each passing day, she could sense that leap of faith requesting to be bridged. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm just a copy of my past," she admitted, her voice wavering as she shifted uncomfortably. "What if the vulnerabilities take over? The pain, the struggle, it's a lot." In that silence, Jack processed her words, his expression softening. "But you're more than that. You've risen above. You're creating, thriving. That pain can inspire. It can empower." His heart thudded with both fear and resolve. Did she even know how to articulate the interplay of her struggles? Everyone around her was brave, vulnerable, and raw, sharing their stories with ease. What if she failed to deliver in a way that resonated? That weekend, they ventured back into the city, intent on gathering more stories. Stepping into a small gallery, an artist named Rhea showcased intricate pieces fashioned from everyday objects, a striking metaphor for reclaiming identity from discarded remnants. They engaged her in a conversation brimming with emotion, and Lily watched as Jack deftly connected with her on every level. Rhea's life unfolded in front of her, a tapestry woven with pain and beauty. The tales of her childhood hardships and triumphs captured the audience, and Lily felt a pang of envy mixed with inspiration. Here was a woman transforming her struggles into masterpieces, yet she found herself frozen in fear. As the night drew on, Lily watched Jack and Rhea forge an authentic connection through a shared understanding of their paths. Impulsively, she interrupted. "How do you do it? How do you share such rawness without feeling exposed?" "Being exposed is where the magic lies," Rhea replied with a knowing smile. "Every piece of art tells a part of me, but it doesn't define me. It sets me free." Something clicked within Lily. Perhaps it wasn't about defining herself strictly by her past, but rather about integrating her experiences into something transformative. This realization rippled through her, empowering her to harness her past rather than be constricted by it. On the drive home, Jack turned to her, eyes bright with encouragement. "What do you think?" "I think I can be more authentic," she said, her voice trembling with newfound strength. "This is the art I want to create." As she envisioned a blend of her memories and aspirations, their conversation shifted from the dreams of the future to a deeper understanding of their motivations. But the shadows of her insecurities still lingered in the corners of her mind. Would Jack truly embrace the complete picture of who she was? That night, they sat amidst crumpled sketches and scattered paint tubes, enthusiasm filling the air. But with every idea shared, a familiar dread crept in. The complexities of unveiling her truths loomed large, and she wondered if they could withstand the weight of those revelations together. As she prepared to immerse herself further into the art, a thought gripped her, choking the excitement. Could she face the realities of her upbringing without crumbling? Would presenting her past honor her journey, or would it unravel the very fabric of what she had built moving forward? The journey beckoned, electrified with potential, yet marred with uncertainty. As the impending confrontation with her truth approached, deep-seated fears clashed with the flickering flames of resolve. Would this plunge into authenticity ignite her spirit, or leave her floundering in the remnants of her past? With the horizon brightening on their collaborative story, Lily turned to Jack, determination rising within her. "I think it's time to dig deeper." What awaited them in that depth was yet to unfold, and the true test of their partnership loomed ever closer. The sun crested the horizon with a gentle glow, as if heralding a day rife with potential and introspection. With renewed determination, Lily sat on the edge of her bed, surrounded by a chaos of color, sketches, and her heart drumming a frantic yet hopeful rhythm. There was a daunting challenge ahead of her, the task of uncovering the layers of her own narrative, pulling back the veil obscuring her truth. Jack, as always, sensed the tension churning within her. He had seen the flickers of fear and excitement intertwine in her eyes. "You okay?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. That question, simple yet piercing, ignited 1,000 thoughts in her mind. How could she possibly explain the complex tapestry of her feelings? She was teetering on the edge of authenticity, and the thought alone sent butterflies fluttering in her stomach. "Just thinking," she murmured, trying to feign calmness, but the tension between her muscles betrayed her. "Thinking can sometimes be our worst enemy," he replied, stepping closer. "What's holding you back?" In that moment, she recognized a pivotal choice lay before her: to voice her fear or bottle it up as she had done for so long. Words tangled in her throat, but the essence of honesty had risen to the surface. "I'm worried about sharing my story," she confessed, vulnerability lacing her tone. "What if it's not enough? Or worse, what if it's too much?" Jack's expression softened, and he stepped further into her space. "Your story is uniquely yours, Lily. It's not about being enough. It's about being real. You don't need to compare yourself to others." As she looked into his eyes, something deep within her began to stir. Perhaps the very act of sharing her truth could carve a pathway to acceptance, not just from others, but from herself. The artists she had encountered were not just brave. They had exemplified resilience, allowing pain to intersect with creativity. They'd transformed scars into stories. Determined to face this creative juncture with renewed vigor, she began to gather the sketches and notes she had jotted down over the years, fragments of a past filled with fleeting moments that defined her emotions. Each piece felt like an electric jolt, whispering the possibility of metamorphosis. In the days that followed, her mind raced through memories. Childhood joys mingled with sorrows, fleeting moments woven together like threads in her tapestry. It was in her cluttered art space, free of judgment or expectation, that she began laying pieces down in the open. Completing a piece felt like unchaining a part of herself. She poured color into her canvas, each stroke encapsulating a hostility from her childhood, a flicker of joy, a deeply buried insecurity. As the layers built and her history transformed into visual art, the demon whispers calling for restraint began to fade. Jack often watched her work, witnessing a change as she began to embrace that rawness. There were days when doubts loomed heavy, and Lily would sigh, hesitating as her hand hovered above the canvas. Yet just as quickly, she'd ignite, defying that hesitation with a swift, bold stroke, silencing the inner critic urging her to yield. One evening, engulfed in the vibrant hues of her created world, Jack stood behind her. "Lily, I've seen you grow just from these canvases. You're reclaiming not just your art, but your story," he declared, his admiration palpable. Yet her heart still wrestled with shadows of doubt. And what if it's too raw? What if people don't understand? "That's not for you to worry about," he asserted gently. "What matters is that you understand, that whoever sees it feels your story, however messy it may be. That's where connection exists." Jack's words lingered in her mind, sparking a realization. The essence of making art wasn't about perfection, but the truth behind it. Perhaps the fear of vulnerability was just another component of her journey. As she prepared for an upcoming showcase where she could unveil her work, she felt a grounding sense of resolve forming within her, yet apprehension still danced at the edges. With each passing day, the thought of revealing herself to a broader audience both thrilled and terrified her. On the eve of the showcase, Lily stared at her completed pieces, her heart both eager and heavy. This was not just about presenting art. This was a presentation of self, a declaration that she would no longer be constricted by her past. But a larger question loomed on the horizon like an approaching storm. Would the world embrace her raw authenticity, or would it strip away the very foundation she had worked so hard to build? That question ricocheted in her mind as she held each piece, contemplating the stories entwined within them. With breathless anticipation, she whispered to herself, "It's time to step into the light." As she closed her eyes, the moment of revealing her work approached, the whispers of doubt collided with a promise of liberation. What awaited her on that stage could redefine her future, and the synergy of fear and courage ignited a fire deep within her. The moment had finally come to face a wider reality, a daunting prospect brimming with the potential to transform her existence. What lies beyond that threshold would shatter her perceptions of vulnerability, crafting paths she hadn't yet imagined. The day of the showcase dawned with a radiant light, bathing Lily's creations in a warm glow that seemed to echo the beating heart of her journey thus far. Arriving at the venue, her stomach fluttered with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Each step she took felt monumental, marking her transition from a girl burdened by labels to an emerging artist ready to claim her space. As she set up her display, the vibrant colors of her jewelry intermingled with the raw emotional context of her pieces, a reflection of her soul. Every necklace told a story. The heirloom gemstones sparkled not just with light, but with the essence of her past, the sacrifices of her family, the determination that had fueled her every decision. As the crowd began to filter in, she could feel the weight of their gazes, the silent judgments and anticipations enveloping the air. Yet, this time, she stood anchoring a newfound sense of self-worth. The insecurities that had once crippled her felt like whispers of the past, diminished by the vibrant presence of her art. Among the first to approach was Jack, his supportive presence revitalizing her resolve. "You're ready for this," he assured her, glancing at the pieces that captured not just beauty, but the very essence of struggle and triumph. They exchanged smiles, setting the grounding for both their aspirations in this space. The event began, and soon voices mingled, laughter interlaced with admiration. Attendees moved from piece to piece, engaging with the stories behind Lily's art. One patron, a local artist named Anne, paused before a bracelet threaded with ceramic fragments and intricate metals, each piece reflective of resilience. "This one, it feels personal, like a journey," she murmured, captivated by Lily's craftsmanship. Lily felt a swell of pride wash over her. The validation she had yearned for now surged to the surface like surging waves crashing against the stones she once believed defined her. "It is personal. Each piece embodies part of my journey. The struggles, the triumphs. They're not just adornments, they're stories." The words flowed freely now as she shared with them the essence of her narrative, the fears, the doubts, and ultimately the victory of claiming her identity as an artist. With each interaction, the audience listened intently, empathizing with the heart behind the art. Then, as if summoned by fate, Jack had stepped into the spotlight, articulating how their partnership had forged a unique path, blending distinct backgrounds and experiences. We're here today to illustrate that art intersects with authenticity. Lily embodies a powerful narrative through her work, reminding us that every story deserves to be heard. The impact of his words rippled through the crowd, inviting understanding and connection. The weight of preconceived notions began to dissipate, diminishing the barriers that had once seemed insurmountable between their worlds. This was a voice not just for her art, but for the unspoken struggles that many shared. Then, a time came for Lily to take center stage, a moment where she felt the spotlight illuminate her in a way that cajoled her spirit, drawing out each original thread of her experiences. "Art is woven from the threads of our lives," she began, her voice steady and resonant. "In unveiling my truth, I hope to invite others to find courage within their own." The audience leaned in, captivated not just by her words, but the sincerity that radiated from her. With every breath, she reclaimed her narrative, transforming what had once been shadowed by fear into a radiant proclamation of achievement. Doubt was replaced by clarity. She spoke of liberation through vulnerability, encouraging those stood before her to embrace their own journeys. It seemed as though the very walls of the venue pulsed with power and recognition, as listeners empathized with what she had brought forth. After concluding her thoughts, a round of applause erupted, warm and sincere, reverberating through her being, a beautiful acknowledgement of her growth. For the first time, the validation she sought wasn't just about approval. It resonated with genuine recognition of her courage and artistry. As the showcase came to a close, people began to flock around her display with greater fervor, eager to acquire not just jewelry, but a piece of her journey. She exchanged stories with individuals, humbled by the immediate connection formed, each person eager to share their own experiences. Lily felt the weight of her fears lift away, replaced by something entirely new, an electric sense of belonging within the realm of creative expression she had dared to step into. The girl who once feared ridicule now stood with solid confidence, recognized not just for her craftsmanship, but celebrated for weaving her soul into each piece. At the end of the night, Jack stood by her side. "You did it. You claimed your truth," he said softly, a pride illuminating his gaze. "I did," she replied, the warmth of newfound accomplishment enveloping her like a comforting embrace. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" "Yes, the beginning of something remarkable," he affirmed, a glimmer of understanding igniting between them. As they walked out together, she reveled not only in the recognition she had earned, but in the metamorphosis that had culminated in this victorious evening. Behind her lay not just the jewelry created from gemstones and threads, but an empowered young woman who had transformed fear into a triumphant voice. For the first time, Lily stood firmly in her identity, a testament to the determination that had driven her from shadows into the light. The gilded pages of her story were now open for the world to witness, and she felt poised and ready to embrace all that lay ahead. It was time for her to not only create art, but to redefine the very essence of her existence. You need to subscribe now to be the first to see more exclusive emotional stories like Lily's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share the message of resilience. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your insights matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Your support can awaken others.